My friend, if I told you that your greatest battles are not external but internal, would you believe me? We often think discipline is about controlling what's around us. But the truth is, spiritual discipline begins with mastering what's within us. Listen carefully. The person who conquers their emotions, their impulses, and their thoughts has conquered the world that truly matters. Most people fail in life not because they lack talent, but because they lack inner control. They pray for open doors, but they can't manage their emotions long enough to walk through them. So today, I want to share with you the hidden key, the one most people overlook, to building unshakable spiritual discipline and emotional strength. Most people live their entire lives trying to control everything, control their emotions, control people's opinions, control the outcomes of situations they can't even predict. But here's a truth that will set your mind free. Life was never designed to be controlled. It was designed to be aligned. You don't need more control. You need more alignment. Alignment means your thoughts, emotions, and actions are all moving in the same direction, toward purpose. When you are aligned, you don't waste energy fighting yourself. You don't wake up every day wrestling with doubt, fear, or indecision. You wake up steady, focused, and intentional. Think about it like this. A car that's out of alignment can have a full tank of gas, brand new tires, and a powerful engine, but it will still drift off the road. It's not because the car is weak, it's because it's not aligned. Many people are like that car. They have energy, talent, and dreams, but because their emotions are not aligned with their spirit, they drift. One moment they're confident, the next they're discouraged. One day they're focused, the next they're distracted. The problem isn't the car, the problem is the direction of the wheels. And that's what alignment fixes. When your life is aligned, peace replaces panic. You stop reacting to everything that happens to you and start responding based on what's happening within you. Alignment gives you clarity. It silences the noise and allows your inner voice to rise above the chaos. Because when your vision becomes bigger than your emotions begin to serve your vision. Have you ever noticed how a river flows effortlessly around obstacles? It doesn't argue with the rock in its path. It flows around it and keeps moving. That's alignment. The river doesn't waste its strength fighting what's unmovable. It keeps its direction. Some people, though, spend all their emotional energy trying to change people, fix what's broken, and force what's not meant to be. And in doing so, they lose the flow of purpose. But when you're aligned, you understand that peace is not found in control. It's found in letting things flow according to divine timing. Alignment doesn't mean everything around you is calm. It means you are calm even when everything around you isn't. It means your emotions don't decide your attitude, your purpose does. Let's be honest, discipline is hard when you're emotionally unstable. You can't commit to a goal if your emotions control you. One minute you're passionate, the next you're procrastinating. One moment you're inspired, the next you're insecure. Alignment brings consistency. It anchors your feelings to your faith and your purpose so that even when motivation fades, direction remains. You might say, but I can't control how I feel. That's right. You can't always control how you feel, but you can control where you stand when you feel it. Alignment teaches you to stand in purpose while your emotions pass through. Think about a pilot flying through turbulence. The wind may shake the plane, the clouds may block the view, but the pilot doesn't panic. He stays aligned with the instruments because he knows the direction. Your purpose is your instrument. It tells you which way is up when emotions cloud your vision. Imagine a person training at the gym. They don't become strong by lifting one weight once. They become strong by consistent repetition. The same principle applies to emotional and spiritual strength. When you consistently align your reactions with your higher purpose, when you choose patience instead of anger, forgiveness instead of resentment, and focus instead of frustration, you're building internal muscle, and eventually what used to shake you no longer moves you. That's power. Alignment turns emotional storms into spiritual training grounds. Every time life throws you off balance, alignment pulls you back to center. It teaches you to ask, what's my purpose in this moment? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That single shift transforms victims into victors. Because when your purpose becomes your compass, no storm can make you lose direction. Most people are emotionally exhausted because they're fighting battles that don't belong to their alignment. They're arguing with people who will never understand them, chasing validation that doesn't fit their purpose, and trying to fix what isn't theirs to fix. Alignment frees you from unnecessary battles. It gives you permission to stop trying to control the uncontrollable and start mastering what truly matters. You. If you want to know whether you're aligned, check your peace. When you're out of alignment, everything feels heavy. You're anxious, restless, easily offended, constantly comparing. But when you're aligned, even in chaos, there's an inner calm. You can smile through pressure, stay grounded in uncertainty, and keep moving when others quit. That's not denial, that's direction. Think of a musician tuning a guitar. When even one string is off, the music sounds distorted. But once every string is aligned, harmony flows. Your spirit is the same way. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony with your higher purpose, life becomes music again. You stop fighting your own rhythm. You start flowing in divine timing. And here's the truth, alignment doesn't come overnight. It's a daily practice. Every morning you must decide, will I let my emotions lead me, or will I let my vision lead me? That single decision determines how your day unfolds. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about consistent alignment. You realign every time you fall off track. You realign every time you catch yourself reacting out of fear instead of faith. You realign every time you choose purpose over pressure. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you've learned to stay aligned when life gets harder. That's when your emotions stop being your enemies and start being your allies. They stop distracting you and start driving you. Because when your heart and your purpose beat in the same rhythm, you stop chasing control and you start walking in peace. Emotion is one of the most powerful forces ever created. It can build or it can break. It can lift you to the highest mountain or bury you in the darkest valley. Every great achievement, every mistake, every relationship, every war, every success, behind it all is emotion. But here's the truth, very few people ever discover emotion was never meant to be your master. It was meant to be your servant. The difference between people who rise and people who collapse isn't that one has emotions and the other doesn't. The difference is one learns to master those emotions while the other becomes enslaved by them. You can't escape emotion. You will feel joy, anger, fear, love, jealousy, excitement because you are human. But your emotions were never designed to dictate your destiny. They were designed to inform it. Think about a ship on a vast ocean. The waves can be wild, unpredictable, and violent. But the captain doesn't jump off the ship just because the sea gets rough. He holds the wheel, adjusts his direction, and stays the course. That's what emotional mastery looks like. You learn to navigate your inner sea, not drown in it. Most people don't lose in life because of failure. They lose because of reaction. One word spoken in anger has destroyed marriages. One decision made in fear has closed doors that were meant to open. One moment of jealousy has ruined lifelong friendships. Emotion is powerful, and if you don't guide it, it will guide you. Have you ever noticed how one bad mood can change your entire day? You wake up late, spill your coffee, rush to work, and suddenly your whole mindset is negative. Everything irritates you. But stop and think, did the world change or did your emotional lens change? The moment you let emotion lead without wisdom, your perspective becomes your prison. But when you master your emotions, everything changes. You begin to realize that feelings are visitors, not permanent residents. Anger knocks on your door, you decide whether to let it stay. Fear whispers in your ear, you decide whether to listen. Sadness comes uninvited, you decide whether it gets to define you. That's mastery. That's power. You stop saying, I can't help how I feel, and you start saying, I decide how I respond. Let's be real, life will test you. People will disappoint you, plans will fail, and you will be misunderstood. But emotional strength doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't let pain become your identity. You cry, but you keep moving. You get angry, but you don't lose your peace. You feel fear, but you don't freeze. You keep walking forward because you've learned that emotions are part of the journey, not the steering wheel of your destiny. Imagine you're driving through a storm. The rain is heavy, the road is dark, and your wipers are struggling to keep up. That's what life feels like sometimes. But even in that storm, you never take your eyes off the road. You don't let the storm inside the car. The same rule applies to your emotions. You can't stop the storm outside, but you can make sure it doesn't enter your spirit. That's the kind of emotional mastery that builds champions. Many people mistake sensitivity for weakness. But the truth is, emotional strength is not the absence of sensitivity. It's the ability to feel deeply and still stand tall. It's crying and then getting up to finish what you started. It's being hurt, but choosing not to become bitter. That's the kind of strength that shapes destiny. You see, emotional strength is not built when everything is peaceful. It's built when life hits hard and you decide to rise anyway. Take the story of an athlete. They don't become strong in comfort. They become strong when their muscles are torn, stretched, and pushed to their limit. The pain becomes the signal of growth. The same is true for emotional discipline. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment, it's a weight you're lifting. And with each repetition, your emotional muscles grow stronger. The pain doesn't weaken you, it trains you. You must understand your emotions are energy in motion. If you don't direct that energy, it will scatter you. Anger, when undisciplined, destroys relationships, but when channeled, it becomes fuel for change. Fear, when unmanaged, paralyzes, but when understood, it sharpens awareness. Even sadness, when embraced wisely, brings healing and empathy. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, it's to train it. You train your emotions the same way you train your body, through repetition, awareness, and discipline. There's a reason why people who master their emotions seem unshakable. It's not that life doesn't hit them. It's that they've learned how to process pain without losing purpose. They've learned how to pause before reacting. They've learned that every reaction is a seed that will grow into something tomorrow. You can't afford to plant anger and expect peace. You can't sow fear and expect confidence. You can't feed jealousy and expect joy. What you plant emotionally determines what you harvest spiritually. That's why mastering your emotions is mastering your destiny. Because your emotions dictate your choices, and your choices create your reality. If you want to change your life, you have to start with how you manage what you feel. You have to learn to pause in the moment of heat. You have to learn to breathe in the moment of pain. You have to learn to think before you speak, reflect before you react, and choose before you explode. That's not weakness, that's strength at its highest form. Every great leader, every successful entrepreneur, every grounded soul you admire, they all have one thing in common: emotional control. They don't let moods dictate their mission. They understand that emotion is temporary, but purpose is permanent. You might feel discouraged today, but that doesn't change who you are. You might feel overlooked, but that doesn't erase your value. Emotional mastery means your feelings can fluctuate, but your foundation remains steady. There will be moments when life will try to shake you. People will test your patience, situations will tempt your peace, and disappointments will challenge your faith. But remember, the goal is not to stop feeling, it's to keep functioning while feeling. You can walk through fire and not be burned when you know that your emotions are not your master. They are signals to guide you, not dictators to rule you. And once you reach that place where your emotions no longer control your actions, where peace becomes your default and purpose your direction, then you will understand that true power doesn't come from being untouched by life. It comes from being unbroken by it, The real foundation of greatness is never built under the spotlight. It's built in silence. The world celebrates results, but discipline is formed in the shadows. You see, people often look at the success of others and say, they're lucky, but they don't see the late nights, the quiet tears, the moments of self-doubt conquered in solitude. True spiritual discipline is born in private, when no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is affirming your effort. That's where character is forged, in the unseen moments when your only audience is your own conscience. Most people want the rewards of discipline, but not the silence that produces it. They want the crown, but they avoid the cave. They want strength, but they resist solitude. Yet it's in those quiet, lonely hours that your spirit grows roots deep enough to sustain greatness. Think about a tree. It doesn't grow its roots in public. The roots are buried deep underground, invisible, silent, unseen. But the strength of the tree, the stability of its trunk, and the reach of its branches all depend on what happens in that hidden place. You can't see the roots, but they're holding everything together. That's what spiritual discipline is. It's the unseen structure that holds your visible life in place. When you practice integrity in private, when you make the right choice, even though nobody will find out, when you resist the temptation that no one would ever know about, that's when your spirit gains strength. That's when your emotions begin to serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. Private victories always come before public ones. The person who has learned to conquer their impulses in silence is the same person who can lead others with authority in public. You can't lead others if you haven't mastered yourself. Take the story of an athlete. You see them standing on the podium, gold medal around their neck, and everyone applauds. But what no one sees are the 5 a.m. trainings, the sacrifices, the meals skipped, the pain endured. When the world was sleeping, they were working. When friends were partying, they were practicing. They didn't train for the applause. They trained for the purpose. That's what spiritual discipline looks like. It's choosing consistency when no one's looking. It's praying when you don't feel like praying. It's staying focused when distractions scream louder than destiny. Discipline in private builds power in public, because what you rehearse in private becomes your reality in public. You can't pretend to be disciplined under pressure. Pressure only exposes what's already within you. If your private life is chaotic, your public life will eventually collapse. But if your private life is grounded in principle, no storm can shake your public presence. Think of it like building a house. If the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how beautiful the walls are or how impressive the design looks. Sooner or later, it will fall. That's why your private habits matter more than your public image. It's easy to look disciplined when people are watching. It's easy to post motivational quotes online. But real discipline is what you do when the camera's off, when no one will applaud your decision, when it's just you, your thoughts, and your commitment to growth. When you are spiritually disciplined in private, you don't need to perform in public. You operate from authenticity, not approval. Your peace is not dependent on praise. You can walk into a room silently and still carry authority because your strength doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. People who are not disciplined in private crave validation because they have no internal anchor. But those who build themselves in solitude are free from the opinions of the crowd. They don't need to prove who they are, they know who they are. In life, there will always be moments when you feel unseen and unrecognized. Those moments are not punishments, they are preparation. When you feel like no one notices your effort, remember that roots grow deep before fruit grows high. The deeper the root, the higher the reach. Don't rush visibility. Let your private discipline mature you for what's ahead. You are not being ignored, you are being developed. Every time you choose focus over distraction, patience over pride, and consistency over comfort, you're building a foundation that cannot be shaken. Every musician knows that the song the audience hears is only a small part of the practice that created it. The hours of missed notes, the endless repetition of the same melody, the frustration, the adjustments. Those aren't glamorous, but they're necessary. Likewise, spiritual discipline is rehearsed in the quiet corners of your life where no one hears your song yet. You're tuning your heart, refining your thoughts, mastering your habits. By the time your melody reaches the public, it's strong, clear, and powerful because it was shaped in silence. The truth is, greatness never surprises the disciplined. When opportunity arrives, the undisciplined call it luck, the disciplined call it timing. Because they've been preparing long before anyone noticed. They don't panic when doors open. They've been ready for the door to open all along. That's why your private life is the training ground for your public assignment. How you manage time, handle temptation, treat people, and control your emotions when no one sees, those things decide how high you'll rise when everyone does see. The reason many people crumble under pressure is because they built their image faster than they built their character. They built the platform before the foundation. Discipline is the difference between moments of success and a lifetime of stability. You can get attention without discipline, but you can't sustain greatness without it. The higher you go, the more your private habits are revealed. And if your roots aren't deep, the wind will expose the weakness. You become unstoppable when you start valuing what happens in the dark as much as what happens in the light. Because every unseen act of discipline is an investment in your future. Every time you do what's right when it's hard, you are strengthening your spirit. Every time you keep your word when it's inconvenient, you are refining your integrity. And every time you choose growth when no one notices, you are preparing for the moment when everyone will. In a world that glorifies movement, stillness feels like rebellion. Everywhere you turn, someone is shouting, hustle harder, move faster, do more. We live in an age where noise is normal and silence feels strange. But here's the paradox most people never learn. Real power is not found in constant motion. It's found in moments of stillness. You recharge not when you're doing everything, but when you're centered enough to hear your own soul again. The strongest people are not the ones who make the most noise. They are the ones who know how to be calm in the middle of chaos. Stillness is not laziness, it's wisdom. It's choosing to pause, to breathe, to reflect even when the world is spinning around you. Because when life is loud, clarity hides. The mind becomes cluttered, the emotions become noisy, and the spirit becomes restless. You start reacting to everything instead of responding to what matters. That's why so many people feel tired even when they've done nothing exhausting. They're mentally noisy, emotionally drained, and spiritually disconnected. They don't realize that business is not the same as progress. You can run all day and still end up nowhere if you're running without direction. Think about water for a moment. When water is turbulent, you can't see your reflection in it. But when it becomes still, the reflection becomes clear. The same is true of your life. You can't see who you are, what you want, or where you're going when your spirit is agitated. You need stillness to see clearly. That's why the most life-changing ideas, the most profound revelations, and the most divine guidance always come in silence, not in noise. The world teaches you to chase answers, but wisdom teaches you to receive them. And reception happens in stillness. Sometimes the reason you can't hear divine direction is not because it's not speaking, but because you're too loud. You've surrounded yourself with constant stimulation, scrolling, texting, comparing, performing, and your inner voice has been drowned out by the volume of the world. But when you sit still, when you disconnect from the noise, when you dare to be alone with your thoughts, something powerful happens. The voice inside you that you've been ignoring finally gets a chance to speak. That's where strength is refilled, not in motion, but in stillness. Imagine a phone that's always on, always running apps, never charged. Eventually it dies, not because it's broken, but because it never stopped long enough to recharge. Many people are just like that phone. They keep moving, working, hustling, trying to fix everyone's problems, trying to prove their worth. and yet they wonder why they feel empty. The truth is, your spirit can't be refilled while you're running on fumes. You have to stop, you have to rest. Stillness is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the place where your emotions reset, your mind clears, and your strength returns. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't come from the absence of sound, but from the presence of peace. That's the kind of stillness that transforms you. It's not about sitting in silence doing nothing. It's about being fully aware, fully present, fully in tune with what's happening inside you. When you are still, you begin to hear things that movement drowns out. You hear the wisdom in your pain, the lessons in your failures, and the whispers of your next step. Look at an eagle. It doesn't flap its wings wildly when the wind grows stronger. It spreads them and lets the wind lift it higher. That's stillness in action. It's not the absence of movement. It's the mastery of movement. It's the ability to let life's pressures elevate you instead of exhaust you. When you learn to be still, you stop fighting the wind and start flowing with purpose. You stop chasing what's leaving and start aligning with what's meant for you. People often mistake stillness for weakness. They think being quiet means being passive. But it takes tremendous strength to stay calm when everything inside you wants to panic. It takes courage to pause when you're under pressure, to think when you want to react, to wait when your emotions scream for action. Stillness is not surrender, it's control. It's the choice to respond with wisdom rather than react with emotion. That's how great minds lead, how strong hearts endure, and how mature souls grow. Have you ever been in a heated argument where your instinct was to shout, to defend, to prove your point, but instead you stayed calm and silent? That silence felt powerful, didn't it? Because in that silence, you realized you didn't have to attend every battle you were invited to. That's emotional maturity. That's the strength that comes from stillness. The world will always try to drag you into chaos, but when you know who you are, you don't chase noise, you guard your peace. Stillness also teaches patience. It's the art of trusting that what's meant for you will not miss you, even if it seems delayed. When you're still, you learn that timing is not punishment. It's preparation. Some doors are not opening yet because you're still being refined. Some people are leaving your life because your next chapter doesn't require their presence. You can only see this clearly when you're still enough to notice the pattern. Noise blinds you. Stillness reveals truth. Every powerful person you admire has moments of stillness built into their life. They understand that wisdom flows in the quiet spaces between actions. Even machines have to power down to prevent overheating. If even steel and circuits need rest, how much more does your spirit? You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't inspire others when you're internally exhausted. You can't hear divine direction when you're distracted by chaos. Stillness gives you the strength to start again. It gives you perspective when you've lost your way. It's in the moments when you sit alone and breathe deeply that your spirit resets and your focus sharpens. You begin to remember who you are beyond the noise, beyond the titles, the opinions, the deadlines, and the expectations. You reconnect with your true power, the power that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, doesn't rush, the power that knows peace is strength and stillness is mastery. There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise fades, the applause stops, and all that's left is you and the truth of who you've become. That's the place where real transformation begins. You see, strength is not proven when the crowd is watching. It's proven when you're alone, standing face to face with your own reflection, deciding whether to rise or retreat. Life will always test your emotional foundation. It will shake your patience, and it will stretch your spirit. But the ones who endure, the ones who rise higher than the storm, are the ones who understand that peace is power and discipline is destiny. You must remember, chaos will always exist around you, but chaos loses its authority when you've mastered calm within you. The greatest battles you will ever fight won't be with other people. They'll be with your own emotions, your own distractions, and your own doubts. Every time you choose focus over frustration, peace over panic, and faith over fear, you are shaping the kind of strength that can't be bought, copied, or shaken. Real greatness is quiet. It doesn't need validation because it knows its value. The ocean doesn't announce its depth, and the sun doesn't beg to shine. It just rises. That's what you must do. Rise. Every single day, rise above the noise, above the negativity, above the limitations that others place on you. You were not created to live broken by emotion or bound by circumstance. You were created to master your mind, discipline your heart, and live from a place of divine alignment. The storms may come, but they cannot destroy what is rooted deep. You must learn to anchor your emotions in purpose, because when purpose becomes your anchor, pressure can't move you. People can talk about you, opportunities can delay, doors can close. But as long as your spirit remains unshaken, you'll always find another way. Remember, it's not the wind that determines your direction. It's how you set your sail. Every great man, every great woman you admire once stood where you stand, confused, tired, uncertain, ready to quit. But they made one decision. They refused to be ruled by temporary feelings. They understood that emotions are visitors, but purpose is permanent. So they stayed still long enough to hear that small, powerful voice inside that whispered, "Keep going." And that voice, stronger than pain, louder than fear, purer than doubt, led them to victory. You have that same voice. It's inside you now, waiting for you to silence the noise of the world so you can hear the wisdom of your own soul. Sometimes life will isolate you not to punish you, but to position you. Stillness is the training ground of strength. The seed that grows into a mighty tree is buried in silence before it ever touches the light. You might feel buried, but you're not buried. You're being planted. And when you rise, you will rise stronger, deeper, and wiser than before. So stop fearing the quiet seasons. Embrace them. Because what looks like delay is often development, and what feels like waiting is often preparation for something far greater than you imagined. There's a quote that says, "Don't tell people what you're going to do. Show them the results." That's the power of discipline. You don't have to announce your greatness, you just have to live it. Let your consistency make the noise. Let your peace confuse the chaos. Let your calm in crisis speak louder than your words. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more examples. People who can stand in the middle of the storm and still say, "I'm not moved." The truth is, your emotions are powerful tools, but they are terrible masters. When you master them, you master your destiny. The future belongs to those who can think clearly when everyone else is panicking, who can stay calm when the world is falling apart, and who can keep moving when everyone else stops. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings. It's about training them to serve your purpose, not sabotage it. You can feel pain and still progress. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel pressure and still stand tall. That's what separates the average from the extraordinary. So as you walk out of this message, remember this: the fire you feel right now, that desire for strength, that hunger for peace, that yearning for purpose, it's not random. It's awakening. It's a call to rise into the best version of yourself. Stop waiting for motivation to appear. Build habits that make motivation unnecessary. Stop chasing approval. Become so aligned with purpose that peace becomes your reward. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are powerful when you learn to feel and still choose discipline. The greatest victory is not winning over others. It's winning over yourself. Because once you conquer what's within, nothing outside can defeat you.